asking, I'm asking a very.
Okay. I'm not here
I'll come.
for
Sure. I'll come to you. I'll come to you in just a little bit. Okay. All right. So I'm asking a huge question this morning. But genetically modified foods, or GM foods, are foods produced from organisms that have had specific changes introduced into their DNA using the methods of genetic engineering. These techniques have allowed for the introduction of new traits as well as a far greater control over food's genetic structure than previously afforded by methods such as selective breeding and mutation breeding. Opponents have objected to GM foods on several grounds, including safety issues, environmental concerns, and economic concerns raised by the fact that GM seeds and potentially animals that are food sources are subject to intellectual property rights owned by corporations. Here in Ghana, the debate started some months back, but seems to have died or faded, if you like. Will GMO benefit Ghanaians, especially our farmers? What are the risks associated, if any? Before I introduce to you my guest, I'm sure you've heard a voice there already. But I want you to take a listen and take a look at this. Has the campaign died off? Do we still remember it?
So there has been so much talk about GMOs in the past few months, but it seems to be the case that all the noise has died down. And you are a journalist, used to push this agenda. What happened?
Yeah, you just reminded me. I'm shocked that some of us, I mean, including myself, we've stopped following this issue of genetically modified foods. And the question is, what has happened to the plant breeders bill? And I'm shocked. I mean, myself, I'm really shocked that we've not been following this. Probably due to the fact that there's a lot happening in the country. You remember the Brazil 2014 just ended, and the whole fiasco about the Black Stars of Ghana. And of course, the issue with regards to our economy and this whole issue regarding economic squeeze and how Ghana can get back on its feet. Yes, it ties into it. It feeds into the whole issue about genetically modified foods, because regardless, food is also part of our economy. But the reason why we might have forgotten could be the fact that we love to follow news as it breaks every day, and as journalists, we don't do the follow-ups. And I think this is a reawakening for all of us to start doing follow-ups as is done elsewhere on the continent.
So is it not the case? Some are suggesting that it seems to be the case that it's not a done deal, so there isn't really much to talk about. So let's just forget about it. Is that the situation, or you just think it's something else?
I think there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to the issue of GMOs. We need to know what has happened to the plant breeders bill. Is it really a conduit for the coming into the country, GMOs, and apart from that, if we have governments posturing us, I mean, after all, we're eating genetically modified foods, how bad or good is it to our health? In the wake of this Ebola scare, in the wake of this issue of cholera and all that, shouldn't we be wary of what might come if we are already eating GMOs?
Well, I know we here, I mean, journalists, we have issues. When it comes to something coming up, we just make noise, blah, 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 blah. After some time, we just relax on the matter. It's true that we had issues with this GMO being brought here to Ghana. Apparently, it went to Parliament, and parliamentarians are deliberating on the matter. So what else do you talk about? I hear that the parliamentarians themselves are also reconsidering the issue, because apparently people have written a lot of letters or raised a lot of concern about these GMOs, and so they are re-looking at the thing. If Parliament says we want it, we talk about it and they endorse. We can't do much. We know we all of us have issues about it. I mean, the introduction of GMOs in this country and all that would have issues with farmers, our indigenous farmers and all that. But yeah, we will do our part. If the person who's supposed to implement it says no, it's okay, you don't know much. We have looked at it, and this is how we think we should go. There's not much we journalists could do. We could only write, expecting people to do the right thing. talk, expecting people to take the right decision. If they decide to take otherwise, we just talk and that's it.
So what you're saying now is that you think journalists have done what they can, the rest is up to the others?
We've done our part. We've done our part. Though we shouldn't relent in still hammering the fact that it's not proper for us. It will not be good for us to accept this into our country. But at the moment, it's with Parliament. Parliamentarians are supposed to enact the law or either just quash it. They are supposed to take the right decisions. And we are hopefully, that they will do that.
I don't think so. At Dome FM, we've been doing the stories. Just last 2 weeks, we did a story about some peasant farmers who were pushing that they didn't want the plant breeders bill to be passed. And we went to the Ministry of Finance, Agric, and then we went to the Select Committee on Agric in Parliament as well. And they told us that because of the numerous agitations and all that, they've put a hold on the plant breeders bill. Because of the fact that the GMO bill has already been passed, now the noise about it has died down. But I think at Dome FM we have been very instrumental in pushing the agenda on the plant breeders bill. And
Okay, so to talk more on these issues, Dr. David Percy, he's an agric business consultant, but for the purposes of this discussion, he likes to say he's a student of history and politics. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
All right. Also, Professor Walter Alhassan Sando, he's a member of the National Biosafety Committee, but for purposes of this discussion, I would like to introduce him as a former Director General of the CSIR and a consultant on biotechnology and biosafety matters. Thank you, sir, for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So, GMOs, there's a lot of grammar, if you like. There's a lot of English. Can we break it down to the ordinary person? What should the ordinary person know about it? I'll start with you, Prof.
Okay. A genetically modified organism is one in which you take a gene, and the gene is a hereditary material. What makes you different from another person in terms of your look, your height, and a lot of it is genetic, is the gene in you that makes it different. A plant tall, a plant short, the same maize, you go to a field, some crops are big, some are small. These are variations due to the genes. So if you identify a particular gene in a species that you desire to be brought to another species to make it perform in a certain way that you like, and you do it artificially, instead of allowing the male and female to mate, to move the genes, and you don't do it artificially, you are creating a genetically modified organism. But technically, we do not like the word GMO, because even in normal breeding, I'll keep using the word, you know, if a white marries a black, you get a mulatto or whatever in between. You genetically modify that offspring. That is not the term of
so how do you like it called?
Genetic engineering, because you have artificially done it. You're going to move a desired gene from one species which may not be related. You can take a gene from a bacteria. You can take a gene from an animal. You can go and put it in a plant. When you do that, it's genetic engineering. But you produce a GMO, well, popular parlance. So that is it, moving a gene artificially from one species to another.
Okay. Yes. Dr. Percy, is it already happening in Ghana?
What is happening in Ghana?
This GMO, genetic engineering. Because, you know, when the argument comes up, some people say, oh, but you're already consuming it.
Yeah, I think that we are confounding a number of issues which ought to be separated.
Okay.
The whole issue of GMOs has arisen in the context of the Plant Breeders Bill. And I think we should keep our eye on the ball.
Okay.
So, on the one hand, you're talking about technology, okay? And then on the other, you're talking about intellectual property rights. They are different issues. You must be clear and not mix them up. Okay? As a technology, GMO is neither good or bad. Like television, like radio. It can be put to good use. and it also can be applied to very destructive ends. Any technology, any tool, any instrument has that feature, has that capacity. Okay, so the issues of technology can be separated from the issues of appropriation, or in this particular case, dispossession of farming communities, rural populations, or seed, which is what is at the heart of this matter.
Okay.
So the conversation has not proceeded well because we have confounded the issues.
Who caused it?
I think it was deliberate because those who are pushing for the Plant Breeders Bill intended for it to go through very quietly, to attract very little attention, like the Biosafety Act that had gone before it. Okay, but what we'll be doing basically will be, putting one building block on another to the loss of our sovereignty over food and the control, the monopolization and the destruction of alternatives in the hands of private individuals and corporations.
But you say that this could be good or bad, depending on how,
the bill. What can be good or bad? Is it the technology or is it the intellectual property rights? Because I'm saying that they're two different things.
Okay, so which one can be good or bad in your opinion?
I'm
the
saying
technology.
I will put the technology issues to one side. That is not the central thing for me.
But the bill and the technology is somehow linked in a way, even though you want to separate.
Right. Because they are not linked. I mean, in the body of the bill, there's no mention about GMO.
But if that is passed,
precisely, and I'm saying that is part of the architecture of an imprisonment.
So you want to deal with the bill. So let me
I want to deal with the issue of intellectual property rights in what belongs to communities and whole peoples. Okay? Seeds are not just things in the abstract. Things are the very foundation of our life. Okay? So they are not just resources waiting to be picked up by anybody who chances upon them.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me just...
And this whole thing is part of a general global attack on small farmer production and independent food production.
Okay. Let me seek the opinion of Prof on this particular issue. Where do you stand?
Well, I think it's a Plant Breeders. We're talking about intellectual property rights in general, which is a bit confusing because intellectual property, any output of the mind or the brain that you invest time and money on, you need to derive the benefit from it. And we cut across even the musicians, the copyright thing.
So explain to us, and I keep saying, as an ordinary person, what should we know about this particular bill?
What you should know about this particular bill is that if you come out with a new plant variety, and it's a result of work, years of work on investment in time, in energy, to come out with a new variety, it could be years of breeding and selection, or using a new technology to enhance your breeding and selection work, to come out with a new variety. Because you've invested a lot of money and time in it, those who use it should pay you for the energy and time and energy and effort.
Okay, so can I ask you, do we do a lot of that in Ghana? Do we come up with new technologies in Ghana?
Well, we are supposed to, whether we do or not, because Ghana has signed the so-called the TRIPS agreement, the trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, which binds us to protect intellectual property, to protect knowledge. So this is how come we have got the copyright bill, we've got the patent law, We've got what you call geographic indicators. If you think that maybe a particular area, let's say giraffe, produce the best type of maybe a maize, and you want to name that maize or cocoa from Ghana as Ghana cocoa, it's a geographic indicator or a design.
Who stands to benefits?
Well, it's a win-win thing. Those who are protecting their intellectual property are going to benefit. Those who are also going to use it are also going to benefit.
How?
It's a win-win thing. Okay, if I come out with a new, let's go to the plant variety bill. If I come out with a new plant variety, maybe the farmer has been using varieties you've been using.
Which we don't do a lot of.
Well, we're not invested much in improving. We've just left it like that. You know, I'm assuming that we've been doing that. But CSR has been improving on these varieties. Those varieties that the farmers were using 20, 30 years ago, a lot of energy and effort has gone into improving them. Like you keep saying, CSR is a government institution, and government is paying for it. But even that, they don't give it free to the farmers. The farmers have to pay for the seed. So, and it's a way of getting back what was invested in it. And for instance, CSR, we say we should commercialize. The act establishing the CSR, Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, they all say that we should commercialize our technologies and generate funds, internal IGFs they talk about. So when we invest in this and come up with new knowledge, we will have to assist government to be able to take care of the institution by way of funding. So when these technologies are sold to those who use it, if it's useless to them, they wouldn't buy it. But if it's useful to them, they will buy it. And once they buy it, they make money out of it. It's only fair that they share the money with those who brought the technology in place. So it's a normal, when you buy a vehicle, what do you use it? Use it for a purpose. The vehicle is serving you, it costs you money, you have to pay for the vehicle, for those who produce it. So it's the same thing. If you come with a new plant variety, you've invested money in it. If government, let's say for the sake of argument, pays for it 100%, we can even give it free to the farmers. We don't even have to charge them, you know. But if that's not the situation.
But do we absolutely need this bill?
Yes, we do. We do need a bill because the rate at which CSR can produce, or for that matter, by CSR mainly, can produce these new varieties depends upon the amount of support we get in terms of scientists, additional training of scientists, new training because new technologies are coming.
But we also import, right?
Hmm?
We also import.
But you want to continue importing? I mean, you are importing food? I don't understand. You mean the seed, importing the seed or what? I don't know. Okay. Importing seed, I'm not aware of this, but there is an issue I know from, say, South Africa. There are companies who bring it. But even when you bring in the seed, you cannot just import the seed and start planting. There's plant protection. You have to go to the PPRC, Plant Protection and Regulatory Service Division, to make sure that you are not bringing in the disease. And then also, you're also making sure that you do not send seed to farmers who grow it and then do not get any benefit from it. So they insist that you work with a research institution in the country to test the efficacy of it. And CSR does that even for those companies before the thing comes out.
Okay.
But back to the plant breeders bill, there is a need something for both the farmer, the scientist, and the company.
Okay, so Doc, there's something in it for everybody.
Yes, exactly. And I can tell you if you give me time.
So, do you know if a lot of consultation was done on this?
Sorry. Let me take you back. In Ghana, the entire architecture framework for research is publicly owned and financed. CSIR is a public institution. The universities that engage in research, public research, are publicly owned and funded. The staff in there, the facilities they use, are paid for by the people of Ghana. Okay? If scientists work in CSIR, they are paid by us. Like you, if you work in Joy, or you work in Multi-TV, and you're producing a show, it belongs to the station. Okay? Whatever output comes out is the property of the station. So, Ghanaian scientists working in public institutions are paid, compensated for by the Ghanaian people, taxpayers. Now people are trying to use stealth, using false arguments to appropriate what is not theirs. But you see, the issue is that behind this, you asked, what is the need for this? This thing is being prompted not by internal needs, but by foreign interests. And the reason is this. As in many other situations, our government builds the institutions, it hires the people, but it does not provide them the necessary additional resources for them to carry on their work. So they are forced to prostitute themselves. So our scientists are forced...
They're forced to prostitute themselves?
Precisely. Our scientists are forced to work with foreign entities. Okay? Now, this is not just restricted to Ghana. It's part of a global assault on small farmers and independent food production in the direction of developing monopolies, private monopolies, and control, enslavement. So the farmer has to go to a company every year to go and buy seed. And the seeds tie him to agrochemicals, also made by the same company. So it's a two-pronged move to take the seed and to tie him to the chemicals that the company produces. And this is part of a global move. So that today, only a few companies control the entire trade in seed and agrochemicals. I don't need to mention them. Now, no intelligent people, none, would hand over the critical means of their sustenance to others.
So, I don't know, but
you not hand over your communication, you not hand over your transport, you not hand over your energy, you not hand over your food.
That's what you see happening if this bill is passed.
This is about. It's about intellectual property. And I'm making the point that in Ghana and in many other places in the world, the business of producing and developing varieties is publicly controlled and funded. And it should remain so.
So I just quickly, because of time, have you made your position known? Because this is in Parliament. Do the parliamentarians know what you're saying?
Well, historically, and unfortunately, our leaders, going back over 500 years, have been at the forefront of our dispossession. From the time the Portuguese parlayed with Kwame Nkrumah in Elbina 500 years ago, our leaders have been at the forefront of our enslavement.
I just want to use just a few seconds, Prof. So why are you going ahead with this?
Well, what I'm telling you is that the thing is for the good of the farmer, it's for the...
Was it discussed with the ordinary farmer?
Well, when deals go to Parliament, are they discussed with everybody? They advertise, you have to listen to what is happening. The other people, every day they announce bills on Parliament, on the floor of Parliament, and people are supposed to make, and there are subcommittees of Parliament, they sit. They invite memos from the public. So they are not supposed to...
So we're expecting the ordinary farmer to write a memo to Parliament to make their position known? I mean, knowing the...
Yeah, well, the farmer may not do that, but somebody could explain to the farmer what is going on, especially if it's an issue related to the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen. And I bet you they've gone to speak to Parliament about this prime breeders.
Well,
yes, they have. But there are a lot of issues you raise. Unfortunately, you don't have time.
Okay. All right. I don't have time. We'll definitely have to do a second bit of this one. But for today, I want to say thank you for your time. Really, we'll have to continue with this conversation. I'll come back.